Hi, my name is Bethany, and today we have a very special video with a very special guest. It's Justin! So if you don't know who Justin is, that is my husband. I know when I asked you guys about maybe some ideas, one of my YouTube friends said that she completely forgot half the time that I have a husband because she never sees him on my channel, which he shows up sometimes on my vlog channel. It's just not a lot of you follow that one. So today we have a very special video in which we are doing a bit of a Q&A that's mostly seems to be focused around our marriage and our relationship and stuff like that. So we're going to get into it. Now we are on the road, so there's probably going to be background noises, and the setup for kind of how this video is going to work, it's kind of going to be a little different than maybe normal or how I would prefer to do it. But I just feel like I just want to do it now, so we're doing it now. So this person says, does your spouse get annoyed when you're hyper-focusing on something?
Yes.
Why did that sound like extra painful? Yes, and it's okay. I get annoyed with myself sometimes. Does your spouse support your need for space and silence when you feel sensory overwhelm? You're gonna speak for yourself again, so.
Yes.
He's just going, yes. Why do I feel like this is gonna be another video where he's just like, yes, no, yes. He's kidding. So yeah, a lot of times, even if I'm not super great at communicating it, sometimes he'll even like ask me. And other times I'll just be kind of mean and be like, go away, which isn't the best route of doing things, but yeah, he definitely does. Someone says, what is your secret to communication? Or what is his secret specifically? So this one is not a yes or no question, sir. Secret to communication.
I would say sometimes you gotta be patient. When a person has Asperger's, sometimes it is hard for them to communicate what they're feeling and to actually get the words out as to what they want to say. It sometimes has to be. It also kind of doesn't help when some people are overthinkers too. They try to think of the right thing to say, or they're very worried of what the other person will say, the response they come up with. You have to be patient, just let them work out what they need to work out. And be careful what you say too, because things can be taken multiple ways. So just be patient.
And other times too, sometimes I've noticed he'll sometimes like try to give me options, which sometimes is good and sometimes isn't. It just kind of depends on the situation. So what I mean is like, are you feeling XYZ? Like sometimes I don't know and I can't answer that, but other times it can be helpful. And then other times when I'm not like able to say words and communicate, like even earlier today, he was like, are you feeling? And I said yes, and he said, what are you feeling? And I said, I don't really know. And you can leave it at that, and like he understands that there's something going on, but like it's not necessarily him, and it's not like something I can say, and I don't know. So I appreciate that. It feels so happy when it's so sweet. Okay, and then this one is for me. So do you mask or hide behaviors, including stims, from him? Not really anymore. I think I used to on occasion. I do specifically remember one time where I was just really anxious and I like sat up and started rocking, and he was like, what are you doing? I was like, this is just something I do, and he's like, no it's not. I'm like, it kind of is, but that was kind of maybe before I was more comfortable doing that in front of people, and so I'd probably just done it a lot like in private, and maybe hadn't felt like that too much with him there, because he does make me feel like a lot better and like safer and stuff like that. So it's not always to the point where I feel like the need to stim that much in like certain situations. And way back when, before we had any idea about autism or Asperger's or whatnot, or stimming or how that worked, sometimes I would stim and like he wouldn't understand why I was doing it. I couldn't give you a reason why I was doing it. So there was times where I would suppress stims just because he thought like I'm just being like a weirdo or something. But not really anymore. So yeah, I think now I just stim freely. And then he sometimes makes some jokes about my stims, and I'm not very good at taking jokes. He likes to joke though. It's one of his favorite things to do. He likes to make situations lighter and funner, and he likes to mess with people and poke fun, and not maliciously, but I'm just not good at not taking it personally sometimes. How long have we been married? So we are actually on a trip right now to celebrate our 6-year anniversary. So by the time you see this, we've been married for 6 years. Ask about how your Asperger's affects your relationship and why it's worked to both of your advantages. So I'm going to give this one to you. How does it work for both of our advantages, my dear?
Sometimes there's situations where we've either, because both of us are introverts, sometimes we just don't like to be around people, and I think that goes hand in hand with Asperger's as well. You just get overwhelmed with so many noises, so many people, so many different conversations, the acoustics in the room or whatever it may be. So sometimes with Asperger's, I've kind of used my wife as an excuse, I guess. Just to say, oh, well, Stephanie's a little overwhelmed, so we're going to go ahead and go. Or we need to get out of here. Go somewhere and chill out. Which is a win-win. Gets me out of there too. But I guess I should stop using her as an excuse and just tell people what I actually mean. Or feel. What's the fun in that?
Right? Just be like, I don't want to be around you anymore. You're exhausting. Well, I mean, to be fair, in those situations, I probably am overwhelmed, and I probably am, like, done, and I probably really just need to go. So, I mean, I'm not bothered too much by that, but I just think that's funny. One way I think that it benefits is, like, so something fellow women have pointed out to me is, like, they'll ask me if I get jealous about, like, things that I don't understand why people would be jealous about, like, just someone talking to somebody. Like, it's not, like, a serious talking to, it's just like, hi, how are you? And I guess some women get, like, really weird about that. Like, that stuff doesn't bother me. I think it's partially due to the fact that, like, obviously I trust him, but at the same time, like, I guess I don't feel that societal pressure or whatever you want to call it to, like, think that other women are, like, the enemy, and I have to, like, flip out about stuff like that. So I think that's one thing that we don't really deal with in our marriage that I think might be partially a little bit, other than obviously trust, but partially I think due to Asperger's, is that we don't, like, sit there and we're like, who you talk to? Like, you know what I mean? So I personally have been asked that kind of stuff before, and I just, like, find it really weird that other people actually think that way. So I think that's an Asperger's thing. I'm not 100% on that, though. When you found out you had Asperger's, what was some things you did to help yourself? How did you take it? Maybe those sort of questions. Okay, so I have a few videos on that whole thing. I'm going to sum it up very quickly. So I think, was it last year or the year before last year? Was it 2 years ago now? So probably like 2 years ago, kind of went on this whole, maybe this is what this is, and then I got late diagnosed, etc., etc. So ways that I've maybe been able to help myself is being able to realize, like, when it's too much, and when it's starting to get too much where I'm going to need either help or need to get out of the situation, and just understanding, like, it's okay to not be able to handle the situation, and instead of pushing myself into, like, a meltdown or something. So that's been really helpful, and I think it's been really helpful also for us as a couple to like understand what's going on instead of me just being like, I don't want to talk to anybody now. I am done being around other human beings. Like, I'm in this room and it's loud and I don't want to be here. Like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense if you don't understand like why. So that's been helpful. Is your husband understanding about you having Asperger's? Are you understanding, babe?
I understand she has Asperger's.
Oh, beautiful. I think he's a lot more understanding now than like in the very beginning. I will say that. My personal opinion. I think that, I don't know, from my perspective, he has improved like leaps and bounds in the area of like understanding and stuff like that, like maybe ways to like help and stuff. In what ways does he try to help you / comfort you, babe? So cute.
Sometimes we'll do a compression hug where she crosses her arms and then have her breathe in and out, deep breaths a couple times, especially when she's overwhelmed. I try to be a good listening board so she can vent or whatever she needs to get out. Of course, that's with almost everyone. Almost every relationship.
So yeah, he helps me with those things, and if we can't do like a hug at the moment, sometimes he'll like put his hand on my shoulder or something, like with enough weight for it to not be like annoying instead, and stuff like that. And then again, like if he notices me like stimming a lot in a way that I seem overwhelmed, sometimes he'll kind of ask like if I need something or something like that. How does your Christian faith help you in your marriage, especially when it comes to Asperger's? So that's an interesting question. I think because of like the tagged on end, especially when it comes to Asperger's. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
I think being a Christian, initially, you're already putting yourself in check. You're already making sure you're going on the right path. So when you're helping someone or in a relationship with someone with Asperger's, you essentially kind of got the basics down. It's basically, to me, you should treat them just as much as you treat everyone else. There is certain things that are sensitive, but essentially it's the fruits of the Spirit that comes into line with everything.
On my end, I think that I know that, okay, so very quickly, I don't think that people who have Asperger's or are autistic don't have compassion or anything like that. Talked about that before, but I think that we're not always great at like expressing it, and I really think that having God's love and especially like moments in the Holy Spirit and stuff like that can help me personally to feel and like acknowledge maybe what that feeling is or identify what that is towards my husband. So like a godly love, and I feel like really honestly sometimes God helped me relate to other people and relate to my husband in our relationship. So that's really cool in my personal opinion. So good question. How did your diagnosis help clarify things for your husband?
Explain some of the reactions that she had, why she was doing certain things when she got frustrated, and why she's not just timid, but like almost super timid sometimes. Explain why sometimes she's like, leave me alone.
Yeah. There are sometimes like it doesn't make sense where I'm getting like sensory overload, and just like asking a simple question gets me really mad, and that doesn't rationally make sense. So in those moments, we'd still sometimes have to like talk through it, because it's like, why are you like this mad over something so simple? But usually it's because I'm trying to process like different things, and so it's definitely helped in like understanding like, why are you acting like a crazy person for something so simple? But yeah. Or like when I want him to go in front of me when like ordering food or going through the food line, he still sometimes tells me that I am an adult and I can order my own food. He's not wrong, but it's still annoying, so. So how do you date as an autistic woman? So I got married at almost 19. I was 1 month away from being 19. So I didn't have like a long dating history. Honestly, most of my dating was online because it's a lot easier to talk to people via typed words. But with Justin, first of all, we technically kind of connected over something that's interesting to me because I was interested in the sound booth and obviously in God, and we met in the church sound booth. Well, we kind of met before, but we got to know each other there. I don't think I got a lot of clues. And here's a question for you now, babe. This is a question I've been wondering. So, way back when, before we were dating, sometimes, because, okay, my husband is a very kind person, if you haven't noticed, and so sometimes he would take me and the other person who was in the sound booth, like, we would go do stuff, maybe go eat something, go watch a movie, but a few times, at least one time in particular that I specifically remember, we went to a movie and he got me food at Quick Trip, and I told my sister about it, and she's like, isn't that a date? And I was like, no, it's not. He does that for everybody. So I have a question for you, babe. Was I supposed to get the hint? Or was that just, like, you being nice?
I honestly don't know.
Were there any points at which you wished I would get the hint and I didn't? When it came to, like, you liking me or anything? Or were you trying to hide it?
I still don't know.
You still don't know? It's okay. It's been a long time, okay? So yeah, I guess we're both not like optimal at that whole thing, I guess. So whatever your interest is in, maybe you'll meet someone who's also interested in that, and then try to talk. I know I was really awkward. I remember the first time we held hands, I was like physically shaking, and I remember him telling me that it was just a little bit weird. I remember. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You do? Oh, it was... Yikes. What things used to bug him and now he accepts them or even thinks of them as sweet? I feel like that last part might be a bit of a stretch, but let's see what he has to say.
I'm not really sure what the things I need to accept or not accept, but I will say some of the things are probably still annoying. Probably more so, I was raised with, I guess, a lot of imagery. Look a certain way, do certain things. So, certain things out in public kind of still annoy me sometimes, but I know some of those things, they cannot be helped. They just have to happen, and there's nothing. I know there's some things that I can't really do anything about. There's some things that drive me nuts to the point where I want to know the answer. I want to know how to fix it, and I can't. And that kind of hurts me that I can't fix a problem that my wife has, or there's a situation that she's going through that I can't really help with. Yeah, I mean, there's give and take. There's sometimes it's, everything's cool, and then there's sometimes it just bugs me real bad. But I try not to show it because that might increase it.
Thanks. So basically, I'm still annoying as usual. I'm just kidding. Interesting answer there. Very quickly, how old were you when you diagnosed and what was it like for you? I'm just gonna go ahead and link one of my videos about that in a card. I was 23 when I was diagnosed, and I have like a whole video on that kind of stuff. Okay, so one of the people who I think you would get along with, because he likes to also joke a lot, and I don't usually get them. His question was, how did you feel when you found out your wife is defective?
Well, I wasn't really hurt or anything. I wasn't mad, but I wouldn't really say she's defective.
He's also on the spectrum, as a joke. I guess, in other words, how did you feel when you found out that I had an autism diagnosis? Like, did you have any particular feelings when I was diagnosed?
Oh, I guess when I first found out she was diagnosed, I probably kind of thought it was a bunch of baloney. And because I have a hard time, sometimes I think people over-obsess about some things, and they believe they have it, and when they over-obsess, they kind of continue to believe. The more they get into it, the more they believe it, the more they deal with it, it's going to become true. Sometimes I believe that. But going on almost 2 years, I know it is true. I still don't like it. I don't like that she has Asperger's. And there is that inner husband instinct, that inner love instinct that says, what can we do to fix that? Like, does that hurt her? Does that change the way she feels sometimes? There's sometimes that I could get an answer. I wish I could get answers out of her a lot faster. But again, it goes all the way back to being patient again, where you have to understand it's going to have to take time. And that over-obsession is a part of Asperger's.
Okay, so I think this is our last one. It was in the middle of a paragraph of different things, so I hope that I'm pulling out. I think there's one main question. I'd love to give my wife some tips to keep her from wanting to strangle me in my sleep sometimes. I think, okay, so if I remember correctly, basically this person is on the spectrum, and they were wanting to hear about struggles and different things to do with our relationship, and specifically ways for his wife to not want to strangle him in his sleep. Do you have any great tips on that?
I guess when you get frustrated, try to focus on something else.
I love how this is basically good luck. I'm sorry, it's just funny. Yeah, I don't know. I think the best thing is understanding. From both sides, if that makes sense. So understanding if she's more educated about what's going on with you, then some things can be a little less irritating. For example, I know that I'm still irritating when I respond a certain way, but it's a little less irritating because it has more of a reason instead of it being malicious, or because I just want to annoy him, or I just don't want to talk to him or something like that. It's really, I can't. So yeah, it's still annoying or hurtful, but it's less so because he knows that I'm not doing it on purpose to annoy him or anything like that. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I will say information is key. if you know why they're doing something, for me, it helps me understand why she's doing blah 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 and what is going on. I like to know what's going on. I know that's sometimes hard because the emotions kind of get in there and kind of confuse everything. It would be kind of interesting to see, I guess, the difference between a male with Asperger's versus a female with Asperger's, because I imagine the emotions would be quite different.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. So, I mean, I think there's definitely a different dynamic when it comes to you being the person on the spectrum instead of your wife. So that's what we've got for you right now.
And as for your wife maybe wanting to kill you in your sleep or whatever, maybe try obsessing over cleaning the house or something.
Oh, he's
happy.
He's got jokes. Anyway, thank you all so much for being here. I think this is literally my favorite video of all time that I have recorded. I'm not even kidding you. So thank you, babe. Yay, he exists. He's probably all pooped out from being grilled with all the questions. Are you pooped out?
Sure.
Anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you for sending in those questions. I hope that helped give you some insight on a neurotypical and autistic marriage relationship and how that works. And hopefully you came away with some helpful things. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And be nice to my sweet hubby. I know that some people are very opinionated about like the way people say things, so just be very nice to him because obviously he's very sweet. So if you enjoy hearing autism related content from me, you should probably hit that subscribe button because I do post to this channel every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. I hope you're having a wonderful week and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Let's say bye.
Bye.
Bye.